What's up, you guys? Today I want to talk about OCD tendencies in game collecting, something I'm sure many collectors can actually relate to. It's a very first world problem, maybe a personal problem to an extent, but hear me out, hear me out. Let me show you something, and let me know if you think this is gross. Oh, oh, dude, that's not gross. That's disgusting. Look at that. Look at that. Oh, one more. Let me show you one more. Look at that. Oh, that's gross. We all know it. We all know that's gross. The mixed spines of a greatest hits, player's choice, platinum hits, and the regular version of the game. It just makes for a collection that's just way less clean. And I think that's something that bothers a lot of collectors. First world problem, personal problems, but it's a real thing. And there's a situation that's come up that was really influencing my purchase as I'm getting back into physical game collecting. And that's with the Dragon Quest HD 2D remake games. Now, if you don't know already, I'm a huge fan of Final Fantasy and Dragon Ball Z, but I have never played a Dragon Quest game. That's right, I've never played Dragon Quest. And so these HD 3D 2D remake games, I've always thought they looked incredible. They look beautiful. They give me some Game Boy Advance nostalgia, but like modernized. And I think the game's like absolutely fantastic. I mean, even outside Dragon Quest, I haven't played any HD 3D 2D remaster game, but they all look great. And there's only just so much time and money, and can't play everything. But a situation's coming up where my daughter's about to be born very soon, and me and my wife are gonna be going into a 6 month period where we're gonna be playing some Switch 2 in bed for like 6 months, and so I'm looking for some good handheld games to play during that time, and this seems like a perfect time to be playing those Dragon Quest games. I see that on the Switch 2. Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD 2D remake is coming out. I know it's a game key card, and maybe that's your OCD tendency. You want the whole game on the key card, but I don't mind the game key cards, to be honest. So that's not that's not my personal issue with it, but I can totally see that perspective as well. So that game's coming out on Switch 2, and so I'm looking at the Switch 1 version, and that's where I get some of my OCD tendencies coming up because the first thing I think of when I see the Switch 1 and Switch 2 version, the first thing that comes into my mind is this right here. Here's an example. That's what the games will look like on the shelf. The Switch 1 version and the Switch 2 version. That I can't stand the Switch 1 spines. This just red spine. Everybody wants to switch. And if you made this far in the comments, go ahead, rag me on this. But I got this for $8 on Best Buy Black Friday. I haven't even played it, but $8, whatever. This will make a fun night someday. Uh, but yeah, I think this looks terrible. And these games, these HD 2D remakes of 1, 2, and 3, I think they're going to be incredible games. I think I'm going to love them. And then this is going to be, they're just like how I end up displaying them and treasuring them. I think this looks absolutely disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. Um, so then there's the PS5 versions of the game. And you can argue those games have the whole game on the disc. And so that's the better version to get. They will look very clean on the shelf, very clean in the collection. They're probably the best versions of the game. I'm sure that they run and look a little better, though the art style of these HD 3D 2D games, what a mouthful. The art style, I think, is very genius because then it looks great on the Switch, on the weaker hardware. So like the PS5 is just like overkill for these games. So I don't see that being as a huge benefit, but Dragon Quest 3 on the Switch 1, I think that's only like at 30 frames per second. Now that's a big deal for me. Frame rate is the most important thing with modern gaming right now. And I do think 30 frames per second is largely unplayable. And so I know now that there's a Switch 2 update that's out. And so that basically makes the Switch 1 version a keycard anyway for the Switch 2 version. But, just part of me just wishes that they released either an actual Switch 2 version or like, a Switch 2. Yeah, sure, game keycard. But so I can have like just some uniformity in the boxes on the shelf in the collection, or just bundle the first game, which is Dragon Quest 3, in with the rest of it. I mean, it's a game keycard anyway. It's just a code to download and play the game. I'm hoping with the game keycards, I feel like that help people complain a lot less if you have more games, kind of like the Final Fantasy Pixel Collection, where there was when you put that card in, it downloads like 6 different launch icons. It just dumps all the games separately. It's not like one collection you go into and launch them from one single menu. So I think that'd be a cool use case of the key card, is like give us more value in that, digital code that is tied to the cart. But yeah, so, what do I do? Do I go with the PS5 versions that would look very clean on the shelf, best version of the game physical on the disc? Or do I go with the Switch versions that will be optimized for my use case? I want to be playing them in bed for, 6 months at night to wind down at the end of the day. And I do have a PlayStation Portal, so I could, they're probably great games to play on the PlayStation Portal. But again, I do care about performance, and the lagging of it is just it can be spotty, and do I really want that to damper the experience in any single way? Like I like the PlayStation Portal for like side quests or really tiny games, but something like this, do I really want to go through that hassle and then make sure that the PlayStation 5 properly turned off, or like they didn't accidentally turn the TV on? There's all that goes in with it too. But ultimately, I did go with the Switch 1 version, and it's going to download the Switch 2 update onto the Switch 2. And yeah, this is effectively a game key card. If we have our doomsday scenario where Nintendo shuts down all the servers, I guess I'm going to be stuck replaying this in 30 frames per second. Oh well, I don't know if my hands will even work at that time, or if I'll be alive when that happens. Who knows what the future has in store. But, I think when it comes to the collections, the collection should ultimately tell a story. And, this looks ugly, the Platinum Hits version of Halo 1 alongside the normal version of Halo 2. It looks gross. It looks ugly. But ultimately, these are my games. These were my versions and my copies of the game I had growing up. This has the memories. This has nostalgia. And if I was at a game store or a game convention, or if you came up and you're like, hey, I will sell you a normal version of Halo 1, I wouldn't I wouldn't buy it. I wouldn't need it. This is my version. This is my version. This is my version of collection. This has the memories. And same thing with Metroid Prime. I have the player's choice version of it. Great game. It's like, oh man, I got the player's choice version of that. Like, I would much rather have the normal version of this and the player's choice that Echoes. Like, I think Prime 1 is incredible and amazing, but I have the player's choice version. But you know what? That's my version. And there's many other ways to get these games today. Like, I have so many copies of Halo 1 when you look at the digital storefronts. And yeah, they're games. They're meant to be played. And when they sit on the shelves, they're just supposed to be memories and reminders of the times we had with them, almost like mementos of our experience. And I want this experience on Switch 2 as I play in bed for 6 months. I want to, play this Dragon Quest game for the first time. I hope I love it. I hear great things about it. I want to make those memories, and that's how I want to do it. I don't want to have this video game preservation be the reason why I end up getting the PS5 version and then maybe not end up finishing the game because I either play on PlayStation Portal, I'm getting annoyed with a little bit of the choppiness, or I don't play as much because I'm like, okay, because of that choppiness, I only want to play in front of the TV. And, during the 6 months, my time in front of the TV is going to be a lot more limited. And so, I'm set up with the Switch 2s. That's why I bought it. This was on sale for $35 on Best Buy. I got 5% back in rewards. So, like, I wanted to seal the deal on this. Like, I'm getting ready to go into this hibernation of handheld gaming. And yeah, the game preservation, it's an argument. It's a good argument. And, but at the same time, it's also speculation. And who knows what's going to happen. And I need to live in the now. That's just the experience I want to have, with that update patch on the Switch 2. I'm going to get those frame rates, and I think it's just a game that's going to be better and made for handheld versus on the TV. And even though it's going to look like this on the shelf, and if they released a Switch 2 version, I would absolutely get the Switch 2 version instead, or I would have. This is gross. It's gross for the collection, but you know what? I think this is something that needs to be secondary. And yeah, it bothers me a little bit. I'm sure many people have the OCD tendencies. I'm sure many people would not be like me, maybe especially if you don't have the nostalgia, where you wouldn't be caught dead with this version of it, or you would get rid of this at all costs and want to upgrade it to this version. But you know what? This is my version. This is my version. And yeah, I feel those OCD tendencies when I look at the shelves, and it feels gross. It looks disgusting, honestly. Like it does. But I do think this is the worst. I do think this is the absolute worst. I hate the wall of red. I hate the red. I think this mix is just this is the most disgusting display of two, which is probably going to be two legendary games. I still think I'm going to love them, but I don't know. Does this bother you? Do the spines and all that bother you when it comes to physical collecting? What would you choose in this situation? Would you go PS5 physical on disc all day, every day? Or do you care about experiences first and whatever, you have access to? I have access to all the platforms, all the consoles. I can choose any experience I want. I'm choosing Switch 2 because if I don't, I'm probably not going to end up playing these games, like at least in the near future. And this is how I can slot this in my gaming schedule. And I think I'm going to enjoy the games the most if I do this. And I think that has to take priority over any kind of collecting. And then, I'm not going for 100% complete collection of these modern consoles. No, this is the story of my gaming journey. And when I look at the shelf, I'm going to be like, that was a great time when I sat in bed for 6 months and I played Dragon Quest HD 2D Remake on Switch 2. Let me know in the comments if you have any similar experiences or any kind of OCD tendencies that bother you when it comes to physical collecting. And I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.